Today, I am going to explain a drama, mystery movie called Grand Piano. We see a bunch of workers entering an old, but noble-looking theater, looking for something. The clumsy men are trying to manage getting a huge old piano, wrapped in cloth, out of the room, navigating between seemingly treasurable items. We meet our main character, Tom Selznick. He is terrified on a plane about to land. He's talking on the phone with a woman, who he's complaining to anxiously, how he doesn't want to get to his destination and to play the piano, wishing his limo would crash on the way there. A stranger has to pick him up from the airport, instead of the lady he's been talking to, which stresses him out even more. The woman on the phone is at a press conference, where her friends are trying to invite them for pre-drinks before the concert, but Tom has to be sharp, so he has to go straight to the theater. Emma sent him the limo and the driver as a gift, and even an iPad, so he can live in the 21st century. They are having an interview on the phone, while he's sitting and changing into formal clothing. Tom has been retired from playing on stage for 5 years. Now in matter of minutes he is reuniting with the FCO Harmony, where they play significantly difficult pieces. He says he will be playing on Patrick's piano, who was the eccentric musician who taught him how to play. The interviewer says that there is a piece said to be unplayable, the La Cinquette, which Tom has a bad history with. He retired because of a huge public failure 5 years ago, and now, he has to play on the same piano, and the same song, which caused him the humiliation back then. He enters the theater through the back door, where people already recognize him and wish him to break a leg. They are being surprised he is still alive, after being out of the public eye for so many years. Despite this, everyone is happy about his return. Here he meets an old friend, Norman, who tells him his piano is just in perfect shape. They see suspicious men on the security cameras. Tom jokes about them being the CIA, but Norman tells him they are just the insurance guys for Patrick's piano. Norman says Patrick loved that piano more than his own family. Some people still bully Tom for messing up La Cinquette 5 years ago, but he lies that it doesn't really bother him. But his friend sees through him. Tom reveals his true feelings, that he thinks Patrick would not be proud that he's playing his precious piano, because he is now the great screw-up. Norman tries to comfort him, that the audience won't even notice if he plays the wrong note, because they never know. His wife, Emma, and her friends arrive, but she tells them they can't sit with her, because she has a VIP place. We see the audience and the music crew getting ready for the show. Tom is nervously walking up and down in his back room. Norman goes out on stage while Tom watches. A man brings him his score, which he actually left in his waiting room, saving his whole performance. He then congratulates him how the whole place is packed, which pushes Tom even more on edge. He tears out a piece from the score with anger. It's time for Tom to go on stage. He concentrates and waits for a while before playing, then starts hitting the notes. We hear the calm, soft piano, then the choir gets ready and starts to play along with him. The music gets more exciting and faster. He notices a red arrow in his score, instructing him to turn the page. He looks at the confusing notes and then sees a scribbled text with a red marker, "Play the wrong note and you die." He's looking around to see who's playing the joke on him, then just murmurs, "Assholes." He then turns the page again only to find another note saying, "You think I'm kidding? Look to your right." So he does, finding a red dot on his hand. Another message waits for him on the next page, "Call for help and I'll shoot you between the eyes." He is now truly terrified. He stands up, to walk off stage and to look for the guy. He sees no one, only the red dot dancing on his body leading him back to the piano. He has to play. Emma wants to go to him to find out what's wrong, but he sits back and continues to play. He finds the next message saying, "Play the piano," with the red light pointing to it. The music is just as tense as the scene is getting, faster and deeper notes are played. Then it starts to slow down. The next marking tells Tom to go to his dressing room at the rest time, because the shooter has something for him. The note next to it says, "Make Emma proud." He rages out to the dressing room. He hears his phone buzzing. It's a text from the shooter. I see Emma reach for a phone and I'll shoot her, with a picture of Emma in her seat. Then another SMS arrives, instructing him to the side of his backpack. He rushes to check it out, finding a headset in there. He puts it on. He hears a man's voice, telling him to get back on stage. He tries to find out who could it be and asks him. "Patrick Godreau," the man answers. Tom doesn't understand how could it really be him, but he doesn't believe him, calling it a prank to scare him. He thinks Norman is behind this whole fiasco. The voice challenges him to a bet. The shooter bets it is not a prank. Tom goes for no. If the voice wins he will shoot Emma in the head. If Tom wins he can tell the guy off. Tom threatens to call the cops, but the man has a friend outside, and if he sees a cop, reports it immediately, and the shooter goes for Emma. He has to go back to the left side of the stage. The man tells him to look, then shoots a silenced bullet into the floor, showing Tom that he is in fact serious. He has to get back to play or he kills Emma. If he talks to anyone, or stops playing, he will shoot his wife and him as well. He tells Tom if he plays the wrong note he will die. Tom doesn't understand how the man can see him, but he explains he has a private box up high, with a great view of him. He can see everything Tom and Emma does. He tells Tom that Emma is yawning, that's how bored she is of his music. The guy wants Tom to play the best of his life, telling him what he thinks is good will not be enough. Tom says he will do it, play through the whole concert the very best he can, but he shouldn't even aim at Emma, he should just stop thinking about hurting her. Tom gets worried, as he sees Emma's seat empty. The shooter then plays a joke on Tom, saying he already shot Emma, but later he tells him he was just messing around, but that was enough to make Tom obey completely. In break time, Norman gives a speech honoring Tom, then continues to tell the audience about Patrick's piano, and how this is the first time it's being played on stage and how special this moment is. He then talks about Patrick's death and how it has been heartbreaking to all of them. This performance is dedicated to him, and he even points out Emma, and thanks her for being there. He says it's honoring to have such a famous actress there supporting her husband. The concert continues. Tom is trying to grab his phone to call Wayne, his friend in the audience. He answers, but Ashley grabs his phone in embarrassment, for it ringing so loud. Wayne sees it's Tom calling, they think it's a mistake. He sees that Tom is talking on stage, not simply just counting his notes, so he rushes to the bathroom to call him. But with his phone buzzing, the killer is getting suspicious. Tom tries to lie about it, but the shooter doesn't really believe him, but lets it slide. Tom sends a text to Wayne, to help Emma because she is in danger. He tries to go up to her. On his way there, he meets the security, to who he explains the situation to, but the guard touches him when Wayne tells him that he has to get to Emma. The guard takes him away on his back. Another surprise awaits for Tom. He takes a look above his head, and sees Wayne's dead body, looking him straight in the eye. The voice says now he has seen a dead body, so he is ready to play the La Cinquette, but Tom says he can't play it, only few people can, but he isn't one of them. The voice says he can and he should. He tells him that Emma has taken everything away from him now that she has become successful. He also tells him that he has to become his own man again, and this is his chance with the La Cinquette to achieve that. If he plays it perfectly, they all walk out alive. Ashley goes to look for Wayne, only to find him dead. The killer attacks her too and kills her as well. Tom runs off stage to find the score for La Cinquette, with the voice directing him. He tells him threw it on the floor earlier. Tom only finds the janitor in a back room, burning it along with other trash. He was too late. He gets an idea and goes for the iPad he just got. He downloads the notes and prints them. Meanwhile, Emma is leaving the theater to get some fresh air, but the assistant and the killer can't keep an eye on both Tom and Emma, so the assistant goes to follow Emma, while Tom remains out of sight in the dressing room. Emma then goes to see him, but the assistant follows her. Tom is now in total panic. He knows it's one of the guys. The assistant guides Emma back to her seat. Tom feels like he has no control anymore. The assistant and the shooter are also talking on a headset, but there is a malfunction, so Tom ends up hearing them. He gets to know that the shooter wants to obtain the piano, that's why he's doing all this. The shooter knows he heard it, but it doesn't really bother him. He tells him he knows that piano better than anyone else. An embedded lock in the piano depends on a flawless performance. He further reveals that the release of said lock would yield a key to a safe deposit box containing Patrick Godereau's disappeared fortune. The shooter himself is the locksmith who worked with Patrick to construct the mechanism. The lock that only someone with his skills could ever open. The shooter asks how much money does he think justifies his actions. How much money is Tom's life worth? He asks him, but Tom truly can't answer. He doesn't care for money. He also says Tom is not a real artist because he's living on playing other people's stuff, so he has no imagination. Tom now found the killer in the audience. He knows where he's sitting. He also agrees to playing the La Cinquette. He has to take it easy at first to save his fingers for the end. Norman announces that they will play the Tempest last, but Tom interrupts by saying he will play the La Cinquette. Norman goes along with the surprise change, and presents Tom's last play, the unplayable La Cinquette. Tom says to the man that he will not disappoint his audience. He starts playing the notes softly. He is only concentrating on the notes now. The shooter tries to interrupt, to ease up, to not tire out his fingers. He's obviously keen to get that key. But Tom just keeps on playing with fully concentrating, hitting every note perfectly. The lock system is now slowly opening up inside the piano. But then, he plays the wrong note at the very end. The man is now raging. His dreams of the fortune are gone, in a second. Tom says he did play the wrong note, but the audience does not know. They never do. The man tells him to play again with the right notes, or he'll kill. The audience is in awe, clapping loudly. Tom is giving thanks to his wife, getting all the lights on her. Tom says this is not the end of surprises and invites Norman up there for a last song. Tom gets Norman to play the piano, with Emma singing. The shooter's assistant is now fleeing. The voice says to Tom that he will now shoot Emma, so he starts running to her. In the hallway, he finally meets the locksmith. They start fighting. Tom falls on the ground and sees the man already killed his own assistant. Tom is really struggling. He's getting choked by the killer when the gun falls on one of the light pillars. The shooter is trying to reach for it, while Tom pushes him. They are both trying to get the gun, but it falls on the stage. Tom is standing on the pillars, while the locksmith escapes to a bridge. Tom tries to jump there to avoid falling. The man grabs his hands as he still needs him to open the lock. The bridge is too weak for both men and it breaks. The shooter falls on the piano and Tom hits the stage. Everybody starts running away while screaming. 2 dead bodies are being taken out from the theater. They're 2 friends, then after them comes the assistant's body. Tom and Emma sit in shock in an ambulance. Emma just really wants to go home, but Tom has one thing left to do. He goes to the broken piano and he plays the last 4 bars of La Cinquette correctly, but nothing happens. Disappointed, Tom turns away until he hears the gears of the internal lock system turn and the sound of a metal key hitting the floor. He bends down to pick it up as the camera cuts to black.